CLB.
What up, world? Charles Brown back again with another Talking Facts. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to get notified on the upcoming episodes. All right, man, you know that meme with Denzel Washington? He's playing Malcolm X, and he slam his hand on the table, and he take his glasses off. And every time somebody get upset about something on Twitter, they put that meme up, right? That's how I felt when I went online this morning, and I'm looking. And it goes, Verzuz is now trying to make people pay to watch Verzuz. And I'm like, what? That can't be right. And I go, and it's like 14-day trial on Triller.com or Verzuz.com, one or the other, or both, whatever the situation may be. What is it? It's $2.99 for the 14-day, after the 14-day trial, whatever it is, right? And then it's $29.99 for the year, right? Now, let me just say this. I'm gonna tell you why, and I want you to understand why I'm mad, right? First of all, and let me just start here. I'm gonna start here that I'm the first person to tell you, I understand business. I understand commerce. I am a small business owner. I understand commerce. I am not a young kid trying to figure out why you got to pay for Pandora to get the commercials off, or you got to pay for Spotify, or you got to pay for SoundCloud to get the commercials off. I get all that. I understand all that. It's not a rocket science mentality you need to have to understand things happen. We understand why there are commercials on YouTube, right? We get that. We get all of that. Everything starts free, then it's going to cost, right? I'm going to tell you something funny. So I don't know how old you are, if you remember Net Zero, when they used to have the internet for free, when it first came out with internet access, right? And they had this product. You can go in the grocery store and get it. It was a little CD-ROM, and it was called Net Zero. You would put it in your computer, and it would boot up, and you would install it, and you had to sign up to the program, email and everything else, make an account, and then you would have Net Zero for free, right? Had pop-ups and commercials, little stuff, but it was for free. And they made a commercial at one point because people was like, at some point they're going to start charging. They made a commercial, this is forever. We're forever free. It would never, ever cost, right? And most of the consensus was, yes, it will. Most of the smart people was like, it's going to cost something at some point. You're going to have to pay for Net Zero. And I was a young kid, dumb. I was like, nah, they said it was free forever. It's free forever. Net Zero would never, and boom, wham. One day it started to cost. One day it was like a 30-day trial or 60-day trial, and then it started to cost. And guess what happened to Net Zero? When the last time you heard of it? So it's two ways to go with it. Yes, I understand commerce, but I also understand when you build a business on something. Let's be clear. To all the people who are going to say, because most of the internet is mad, but you got some people who have this mentality that it's business. It's commerce, right? We get that. Everybody understands that. But Verzuz wasn't built for business and commerce. It was built in a pandemic with Timbaland and Swizz Beats doing a genuine, friendly beat battle. It caught on. People wanted to see that. They was like, oh, we could watch this. So they did it on Instagram, right? And everybody was like, oh, man, this is great, blah, 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 blah. Then they started calling their friends and their boys and matching up these little battles to get people through the pandemic. Oh, this guy versus that guy. Oh, Ghost versus this guy. Raekwon versus that guy. Like 112 versus whatever, right? Keith Sweat versus this guy. It turned into this thing where it became beautiful. They even had Earth, Wind, and Fire. They had all the greats. It was old people stuff. It wasn't no Kodak Black versus Lil, whoever, right? It wasn't that. It wasn't little kid stuff. This was grown-up music, right? They had Gladys Knight versus who? Who did Gladys Knight verse? I don't even remember who she versus, but I know like Dionne Warwick or something. I don't know who. Old people. 65, 70-year-old people was on there, let alone rappers that's in their 50s was versing, and then people loved it, right? It became the heart and soul of the music industry. This is at a time where D Nice became a global sensation. D Nice. They call me D Nice from the BDP days. right? No one knew who D-Nice was if you wasn't 50 or up. Like, you didn't know who D-Nice was. And all of a sudden, in this beautiful era of nothing to do, D-Nice rose to prominence as a worldwide respected DJ. Michelle Obama's watching D-Nice's live stream, right? It was just a different time. Right now, we've moved on and we've come back to reality. Now you may say, well, why are you mad for? What, you thought it was going to be free forever? Yes, because the simple fact of the matter is, everything that we do gets corporate. It gets the corporate treatment, and it turns into crap, right? The reason you should be mad is because the reason you hear the same song 2 and 3 times a day on whatever station or whatever playlist they're force feeding you, right? Is because somebody's paying for it to be there. So you can't get new music. And the reason you're going around saying rap is trash right now, because all the good music is getting shut out for the corporations, the corporate sponsors who have the money to put the garbage in front of you. The mumble stuff that you can barely hear what they're saying, that they're repeating the same words with auto-tune on it, that they made the song in 20 minutes and it sound like it, right? That's on repeat, and you think you like it because they won't play nothing else. That's the corporations feeding you what they want you to have. And said, so therefore, we had something pure. When did you ever expect KRS to have a show against Big Daddy Kane and it would be worldwide attention on it? That was what Verzuz did, right? I can go down the list of people who haven't had shine in years. Bone Thugs versus 666 Mafia, 3-6 Mafia? A global sensation? Keith Sweat singing to a cup of Henny, right? Young Jeezy and Gucci in the same room. All of these were Verzuz moments. And they happened because the people wanted to see it, right? Hip-hop moments that are forever going to be immortalized because of Verzuz. And when Swizz Beatz and Timbaland sold it to Triller last year, we knew. First of all, they was mad at them, and they like, no, we're still on the board of trying to ease what everybody knew was coming. The corporations was going to ruin it. Like when Jay-Z sold Tidal, I stopped my Tidal subscription. I haven't subscribed to Tidal since he sold it. Right? And you may be like, oh, what you expect? It's business. That's the problem, though. That's the problem with hip-hop right now. Everything is business. That's why you got these mumble mouth guys that can barely hold a coherent sentence, holding money phones to their ear, right? Of your money, right? The people you really like getting no shine. You got to go find them. So instead of finding them, you just put on your old music. You got people in 30s and 40s, they still bumping SWV. They still playing old stuff from the daggone 80s and 90s, right? Which is awesome, right? But a queen like Anita Baker is scared to make a new album because she's saying no one will play it. And she's right. She's right. No one will play it. Because the corporation's going to freeze her out. Just like they freeze out everybody else. Tyrese and everybody else who's trying to make real R&B. Tank and all these other people who are trying to make real R&B. And the people trying to make real hip-hop again, or never stopped, can't break through that wall. Jaz-O came out with an album last year. Did you know that? I'm not saying it was good or bad or indifferent, but he came out with it. A lot of our heroes drop music. A few of them get the breakthrough, like Jay-Z and people like that. Because Jay-Z gonna go regardless. Nas gonna go regardless. But the simple fact, no radio station is pushing that music. Nas music. The internet is pushing Nas, but there's 100 other Nas out there that ain't gonna get nothing. They ain't gonna get no shot. They spending a year to make an album that ain't never gonna see the light of day from nobody outside of that structure that's already being created. You got people signing back to Def Jam because they can't break through. So you laughing and ha ha he, right? They're destroying your culture for money. Right? This culture is way more than clubbing and bagging some chick and throwing money in the air and drinking up, insert whatever name brand liquor you drinking, right? It's way more to it than that. We got way more chambers and we're way more cerebral than that. So for you to just sell it every time we get a leg up, and I'm really heated with Timbaland and Swizz Beatz, right? Swizz Beatz going on Twitter, Instagram talking about I was out of the country, I fixed it, it's going to be on Instagram. We don't even care no more. Because the simple fact, I guarantee you, I ain't watching it no more. I ain't watching it no more. You're going to have to really have a matchup that I really care about, because the simple fact that you have to come and correct it means it ain't yours no more. You ain't making the decisions. You sold it. You sold it. It's gone. And that's why Twitter's mad. Twitter's making all these memes, because the simple fact. And then you use Anthony Hamilton and Music Soul Child, who needed this. They needed this. They needed this moment. You're going to put it behind a paywall? Two artists that needed the moment like this? You're going to choose them to put it behind a paywall? It's unforgivable. And it's showing you everything. So I'm watching the Breakfast Club, right? And Envy's kind of defending it. He's like, they paying these artists a lot of money. Somebody got to pay for it. Slow down. Simmer down, son. Before you start, woe is me for Triller and Verzuz, they get a lot of sponsors, bro. Simmer down. They're paying these artists what they're choosing. You're giving them a half a meal. If that's what you gave Bone Thugs, whatever it is, you had it to give. Let's start there. You had it to give. I'm sure they didn't go broke on Bone Thugs and 666. Don't start the woe is me for these corporations, bro. See, Envy out of the street. He ain't out here no more, right? He getting real corporate. He the one on Facebook with the ad saying, yeah, send me your music. See if you can make this mixtape. See if you get chosen for your mixtape, and for us to listen to your entry is $29.99. Only to get a response saying you weren't selected. Sorry, but your music's dope. Right? This is that Envy right there, right? Everything got a dollar on it, and I understand that. But there are things in the culture you can't, that's like Drink Champs trying to charge. They're bringing back people who need to be heard, right? They just had Papoose on there. They had the Wu-Tang on there, right? Nori's Drink Champs is a national treasure that can never, ever be taken for granted. But if they throw it up behind a paywall, F that show. Because it's not about that. You're giving these older, like they say, we're giving them their flowers, right? You're bringing these older gentlemen and females, right, to a new generation. Once you start trying to charge, nobody's going to watch that no more. They're not going to give KRS. Some of the biggest stories in hip-hop was broken on that Drink Champs show. And some of the biggest names that were great at one point are being broken on Verzuz. So when you try to put it behind a paywall and put this corporation spin on it, you're destroying the resurgence of the culture. Don't resurge the culture, then sell it. Right? Don't resurge our culture. Bring it back to the forefront. Right? Who cared about Jeezy and Gucci Mane until Verzuz? Who cared about their beef? No one cared that they was beefing. It was over. No one cared. They weren't going to ever see each other again in public anyway. Right? The odds of that was slim to none. But when Verzuz brought it back, it became the biggest talk of the town. Right? How many Verzuz can you think about that, when they announced it, the internet went crazy? Right? You tell me. Now, how's that going to happen if they put it behind a paywall and everybody walks away from it? It's selling of the culture, and Timbaland and Swizz Beatz did a real disservice to this music. I know some of y'all think it's a joke, but this is why it is. This is why it is where it is. This is why your favorites. Everybody love Wu-Tang, but ain't nobody checking for Wu-Tang for real. Did you know Raekwon dropped the album last year? Did you know Ghost dropped one? Right? So what I'm saying is, when these guys get this chance, it's like nobody paid anybody that performed on that Super Bowl the other night. Nobody. Do you know Verzuz is bringing people's music up hundreds of % once they do a Verzuz? Right? And I'm not telling you not to pay them. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is Verzuz doing more for them than they doing for Verzuz. So if you're justifying it for paying them all this money that they not making, these guys ain't getting this money that Verzuz is giving them on their regular tour dates. They're not getting. I know for a fact, I am a promoter. I promote music shows. I know for a fact they don't get that. I know for a fact whatever they gave KRS One, he's not getting in his shows for one show. I can promise you that. It is 100%. Whatever he got from Verzuz, he ain't getting. Right? But you're going to try to pass that on to the consumer who is making. Only reason Verzuz even works is because everybody's talking about it and they go to watch it. Don't try to pass that. Don't try to make it into something corporate and then charge us for doing that. You're charging people to be in the audience at Madison Square Garden, if I'm not mistaken, right? Ain't you charging these corporate sponsors? You need more money, get more sponsors. Don't pass it on to the people that made it what it is, because we're going to drop it like a hat, like a bad habit. I would never pay for that. I would never pay for it. Not even one time. Because the simple fact, it comes on, what, every 2 weeks? Every 3-4 weeks? You want me to pay a monthly fee, a yearly fee for that? I would love to hear somebody try to tell me a counter argument. I would love to sit down with anybody. I would sit down with anybody to discuss why I ain't paying for Verzuz. I pay for Spotify. I pay for Apple, right? Because I can go in there anytime I want. And the entire catalog is there. Not you doing a verse and then moving to the next song, right? Not you being an hour late to the Verzuz, right? Not you bringing out who you want to bring out. I can play what song I want when I want to. I can find new music, old music, my music, whatever I want is on there. So yes, I'm paying for that. I'm not paying for you to pick and choose. Can I pick who Verzuz then? Can I pick who Verzuz? I'm not paying for you to dictate this and that. I pay for services where I have the control to play what I want when I want. I'm not paying for Verzuz. I'm not paying for it. If that's the case, I get to pick who's going to be the Verzuz. I get to pick how many songs they do. I get to pick how long it is. It's a lot. When you're going to try to charge for this stuff, it's a lot you ain't thinking about. Right? Don't tell me you're rising costs on it. You're making a lot of money off something that wasn't supposed to be for money. Right? It was one guy. You get online on tomorrow night at 8 o'clock and Pete Rock going to be on the other one. Like, it is Scott Storch versus, who did Scott Storch battle? He battled, who was it? Scott Storch battled T.Pain? No. He battled another producer. Who did he battle? I don't remember who Scott Storch battled, but it was producer for producer. And it was a big problem because one was putting all these collabs and the other one was just, Manny Fresh, right? Am I bugging? Was it Manny Fresh versus Scott Storch, right? First of all, nobody was going to try to pay to see that. But second of all, it made all a resurgence of all that old music. Everybody was talking about that battle, right? For the culture. For the culture. Remember that? For the culture. Now, you're going to try to bottle up the culture and charge for it. Right? If you don't see the difference, you obviously probably not in this culture. I don't understand how you can't see the difference of trying to charge for something that was organic, right? Yeah, Spotify and all, they charge for music that we love, but we get to play it when we feel like it. That ain't how Verzuz works. It's a million reasons why this is wrong, but the number one reason is this is our culture, and the only reason it succeeded is because it dug deep into the culture. Not no new stuff. It dug deep into 90s culture. SWV and this and that. It dug deep into old school, and it brought it up, and it made a market for it. Where there was none. There was no market for this, right? With the culture that we grew to love, right? Now you're going to try to put it in a box, and let's see how corny it gets, right? Watch how corny it gets, because now you got to pay for it. And when you're paying for it, it needs to make money. So you're going to start seeing G-Eazy versus Machine Gun Kelly or something. Like, it's going to get goofy. And when it's all white people doing it, you're going to be like, what happened to Verzuz? What happened to our heroes? Right? Why can't we get a Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul? Because you can't. It won't make enough money now. Right? Ruined it. And on that note, Swizz, Timbaland, you played yourself. You built something beautiful and destroyed it. So that's my rant. And you can get in the comments and say whatever. I don't care what you say. I ain't watching it, and I don't care what happens after this. Right? The simple fact, if they start charging for this, I'm done with it. Because it's another reason our culture is not our culture. This is why you can't find no real hip-hop right now. Unless you dig way deep, you got to go all into the belly of it, of all these services, and try to stumble through the most worst garbage playlist ever. Right? And if you don't see that, you probably don't care anyway. Chuck Wick Ills, hit the like button, CLBMG.com. I'm out. Peace.